What's up, everybody? We're super excited for our guest today, Tim Aten, who is a managing director for Gulf Shore Business.
Tim also has a popular column, Tim's in the Know, which highlights local businesses coming and going to Southwest Florida.
Matter of fact, My Architectural Glasses ended up collaborating on a few projects because of information we saw on his post led us to reach out to these people. So we're super excited to tell him that and talk to him about everything else going on. And if you haven't subscribed to our podcast yet, please do so.
Enjoy the podcast.
All right, everybody, today's special guest. I've been waiting a long time, actually, for this because I've been following this individual's social media platforms for quite some time, and I've been anxious to tell him something. But today's guest, we want to welcome Mr. Tim Aten.
That's right, Aten. Yep.
And Tim, can you just briefly, before we get into what I want to put you over pretty big time, tell everybody what it is that you're currently doing, if they don't know you already.
Sure. Well, I have a couple of roles that I wear a couple of hats, and one of them is right now we started the Naples Press, which is a new weekly newspaper that just services Collier County. We just finally got into Publix, and we're in 7-Eleven stores. You can buy it there, and you can home subscribe to save money, and it's mailed to your home, or you can get it obviously in your just email digitally if you want. I'm a columnist there and also senior editor, so I do edit copy for that, and also Gulf Shore Business. I'm a senior editor, and that's a business magazine that's part of Gulf Shore Life Media, which also, owns Gulf Shore Life magazine, which is one of the premier lifestyle magazines in Southwest Florida. And then over that, the umbrella of it is Wink Television is involved in it, Sun Broadcasting and Fort Myers Broadcasting. And so,
How so? How are they involved?
They're like the president of that is also used to be our publisher. He's the one who bought the magazines like around 5 years ago.
Right on.
So they're involved. We're all part of the same family.
Okay. What about the Tim's in the Know? Because that's where we found you.
Right. That has a long history. It started with just in the know at the Naples Daily News. And I was actually the third columnist that had the in the know column. It started in, I think it was June of 2002, and by a freelance writer who it was started as a Q&A, which is, I try to keep true to that most of the time today. I do veer off sometimes, but the Q&A were folks writing questions. They're mostly about development now because there's so much growth and development and people want to know about. But initially it was about anything. And so this woman did it for 2 years, and then she left town, and then I was in charge of the copy desk at that time. So it was the Naples Daily News copy desk, and I was the news editor, which is really a fancy title for wire editor and copy desk chief.
What does that mean? What would you do? What are those responsibilities?
Well, copy desk chief, I was in charge of the copy desk team, which put out the papers. I think I had a staff of 13. At the time, we had the Marco Daily News and the Bonita Daily News and Naples Daily News and a number of other publications that some of them don't even exist today, like Ambiance magazine and things like that we would put out on a daily basis. And they had to be, replated front pages. I had different people doing front pages and inside pages. And it was a pretty big operation. And that didn't even include sports. There was another whole sports copy desk team. That's really how I started when I first moved to Naples in '98. I came here as the news editor of the Naples Daily News and worked there for more than 21 years. But I started my column. It was actually in the 9th year I was there is where I took over that column. So that there was an interim person that worked for me on the copy desk, did it for 2 years. Then he left and went to Sarasota Paper. So I started doing it, just was supposed to be interim, like a temporary thing, right? So, which ended up to be the tail that wagged the dog, So what happened in the meantime is that online really took off. So digitally, before, our paper always just posted stuff at midnight and posted what was the next day stuff at midnight. We rarely scooped the print edition, in other words. So, but what started then, it started to take off. They brought in all these people to do online. And so I kind of crossed over then and did a podcast. I actually did one of the first, that was the first time I even heard the term podcast. It was the Southwest Florida News Podcast. And I recorded it at night, and it would be played the next morning. It was what was in the paper that day. It was like a little newscast with weather and everything. And they had a professional announcer that was dropped in, and I would do the news and record it the night before. So I did that for like a year and a half, maybe close to 2 years, and it just didn't find an audience. We had maybe 100 people who were really into it. This was back now, you have to realize, AOL type days where you had to download.
Oh, wow.
It took forever just to download the podcast.
Wow.
And so you had to really want to listen to this.
100%.
Yeah, mobile devices weren't around then.
Oh, okay.
So this was pre all that. So we were ahead of our time, really. And then I did a vodcast, what they called it then. I don't even hear that anymore. Like yours is a podcast that's on video, which we would have called vodcast.
Right.
Podcast was solely audio. I don't know when that
I know.
kind of crossed over, but so I would bring in movers and shakers every day, every weekday, and then for just a 5-minute interview, sit down, but you had to prepare for 5 minutes. You still have to prepare like it's a half hour.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how the people they're going to answer, and I mean. So anyway, so I crossed over what they called the dark side then, because it was controversial for print people to do this, and because the studio was all painted black and everything, so they called it the dark side. Anyway, so that's how I started doing that. At the same time, I did my column, and so we're talking. This was in. Well, it would be 18 years ago this year when I took over the column. And again, it was in the know. But when I left the Naples Daily News, I wanted to continue doing the column. And so I changed it then to Tim Aten Knows, because I did have, my name was kind of branded then a little more. At least people knew the Tim part. And they would call me Tim. Tim's in the know anyway. And I started doing that for Florida Weekly. And it ran on their front page for about 3 years. Till then, when we launched the Naples Press, I knew that my days were numbered, that I wouldn't be able to do that for Florida Weekly anymore. Because there was an agreement. Florida Weekly, knew I was working at Gulf Shore Business, and Gulf Shore Business knew I was there, and they were fine with that. But when we started the Naples Press, my column was going to go there. Then that's where it moved and where it remains today. So, like I said, we started that a year ago, January.
Do you enjoy doing that column?
Oh yeah, I mean, I usually bound out of bed in the morning. I'm excited to get to do. I really like the research part of it, looking into being the first to know what's coming there.
I'm glad you said that, because this is a perfect segue. The first question I wanted to ask, we're active salespeople, and so we're always looking for new opportunities. You are also looking for new opportunities for your column. But we want to tell you there's been several jobs that My Architectural Glass has collaborated with people because of posts that we saw you did. Mm-hmm. Like, we were even unaware of a new development or a new project. We're like, holy shit, did you see what Tim put in the Tim's in the Know? And then we kind of go through our Rolodex, for all you younger ones, our contact list. And we would start to dive in and try and collaborate on that project. Right. But we've actually got good business that started off stuff out of your column. And that kind of bounces around within our company. We got 192 employees, so there's people that watch it, and especially the active salespeople. We're trying to get as much information from everywhere. So first, we want to say thank you, and we'll send you a Christmas card this year. But without divulging your resources, is there any advice that you could give to people that are trying to seek out new opportunities or try to be in the know and find out what's going on? Like, what's your secret? How do you go about finding all these new things?
Well, I think first of all, you have to be open to new. You have to put like an antenna up. So once you, it's the same way when I do the same thing when I go into a parking lot and I'm looking for a parking space. I just assume I'm going to find a parking space up where I want it, right? I don't just I'm never going to find one there, so I'm not even going to try. I do it. So if you are open, that you want new information, that you want to be the first to know what's going on, you're going to find it. It's going to come to you. It's almost like the power of prayer.
You're manifesting. Right. Vision drives decision.
Right, and it's going to, and you receive it. And part of it is, I think, a lot of the what was good for me is the fact that the column was a Q&A. So people are asking me questions. They're the first to see the earth movers on the corner. Want to know. They're asking me what's coming to this corner, because they see the trees coming down. And the weird thing about Collier County, and I'm not sure if it's Lee, I think it's probably in the region, is a lot of the times these projects, they don't put signage up of what's coming. Right. They'll put the signs up, what bank gave them the loan for that project, who's the architect, who's the builder, but they rarely put like coming soon, whatever. Sometimes they do, but it's rare. So that's when I come in and people ask me what's happening. And I can tell them, and I can look it up then. And then I go, there's different ways than what I do. I look up that property on collierappraiser.com, and I usually take the PL number or the folio number, because that's usually more specific than the address, because some vacant spaces don't even have addresses.
Right.
So then I take that and I look it up. It's called the Collier City View Portal, Collier County City View Portal, which is where all the permitting happens, and you can look it up. And anybody can do this, but it's time consuming. And then I try to find out what's going on, and I can see who's behind that project, and then I can see the plans. And then other times, I get ideas because I take different routes, and I'm looking. I've been here for more than 25 years, so I know when there's something new happening. Like I spot it right away.
Your situational awareness is at a high level.
Right. So I'm going by and I see, just like coming on the way here today. I mean, I already knew about it, but there's a new construction, at Arthrex I want to do something on, and I already had been researching it. And on the way home, I'll probably stop and take a photo of it because I like to get visual. That's one of my things too. I like to have I think photos with something is important, especially on social media.
And you take those?
I take most of them. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
So I'll do a lot of that. Now, when I do links, those aren't necessarily my photos.
Right.
Linking to something, but yeah. So, and that's one thing that I think is good too. And I think for some reason, a lot of businesses don't realize how important photos are. I see it all the time with restaurants, for instance. I mean, you should have good photos of your food and your interior, exterior, whatever. I mean, that should be, I think, before you open. I'm sorry, but that should be done.
100%.
Yeah, and they're not, and most of them don't do that. And I don't understand. It's so easy with iPhones today, for instance.
There's no excuse.
No, there isn't.
Yeah.
I know you talked about searching the Collier property appraiser and things of that nature, but I've also seen times where you've quoted business owners or maybe got information from other avenues. And a long time ago, and I don't know how true this is, but a long time ago, somebody told me that the reason why you see McDonald's and Burger King right next to one another is because they don't really do that much research. They wait for the other one to find where they're going, and then they scoop up the next piece of property. But there's a lot of companies, we were actually in that boat for a while, where you kind of want to keep things close to your chest,
right.
a little afraid of corporate espionage. In the end, we realized that everyone can steal grandma's cookie recipe, but in the end, grandma's cookies are the only ones that taste that way. Have you run into any things over your career where people were real secretive and didn't want you to know?
All the time, for sure.
No shit.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People also assume that these businesses come to me and want this out there. And sometimes that happens, but it's more apt to what you're talking about. They don't want me, for instance, restaurants want to have a soft opening where they open without the scrutiny of people, because people can be very cruel on social media nowadays.
Passionately cruel.
With restaurants especially. So they want to have a soft opening, make sure they have all the staff and all the food dialed in and everything. So they don't, when they know if I write about it, they can't have a soft opening anymore. They're just inundated with people. It happens a lot. So they're trying, they don't want me to know sometimes.
So your posts are moving the needle on some of these businesses.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. No, and like you noticed with your jobs, I knew years ago that people like bartenders were monitoring what I'm doing because they would get jobs at new restaurants. They would know, because they're always, I think people that are in wait staff, a lot of them are always looking for the next opportunity where they can make more tips or whatever. So they're
better
looking.
culture. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I know a lot of people monitoring me for that, and I know a lot of realtors as well, because they either use it to sell other property or. But no, and answer your question, Jay, it is cutthroat. I know there are businesses that, for instance, commercial real estate people who try to keep things a little quiet because they know unless the ink is dry, that they can be poached. These businesses, someone can swing in and say, offer them a better deal.
Kind of a third base coach comes in and can kind of throw a monkey wrench in the middle.
Yeah.
Wow.
And say like it could be on the other corner. I've seen that many times where it's the kitty corner, and the business I announced was going over here ends up going over there. And I don't know if I had anything to do with that. I hope not in a way, but.
Can you share a story where you've thought about doing a post, but maybe somebody caught wind that you were going to do that and didn't want you to do it, or anything positive? Or
no, I mean, there's some times where I'll hold off on it because it's not the right timing. Because that's a lot of what I do as well. It's a big juggling act as far as timing. So it's not only knowing the news, like I know a lot more down than I'm publishing a lot of times.
It's just not ready to publish.
Yeah,
it.
It's just not, like, it has to be the right time. And you can wait too long, and then the window passes as well.
I agree.
So
with
then
that.
it's common knowledge. They send out a news release, and I like to be ahead of the news releases most of the time, because, I mean, I think that's one of the things that people come to me for. Either I know it first, or I have the best view of it. So if I'm not first, I try to be best and consistent. And so,
Well, That I will say you are number one at.
Yeah.
The consistency. We try and stick to that. We've actually looked up to your post as an inspiration because it is consistent. And I will say too, it's not for anybody that doesn't know or has known, the one thing that I've known about your post a lot of times is it's right down the middle. It's business oriented. There's no bias usually attached to it, or it doesn't smell like it's coming from one side or the other. It's right down the middle, and especially in an environment where everything's so politically charged right now. I got to give you a lot of credit for doing that, because it could be easy to take a swing one side or the other on certain things, but you don't.
Right. No, that's very important, because that's the thing, is it is written as a business. And that's the thing. People falsely assume that I'm a restaurant critic, and I'm not. I don't have a palate to be a restaurant critic. I'm not a restaurant critic, but people assume, because sometimes I put details in, and I will say what's on the menu and things, but it's not, if you really look at it, it's not, I'm not eating the food. In fact, I rarely even eat at these restaurants. I'm not critiquing it. I'm just saying, here, this is what it is. Sometimes I do get flowery with some of the decor or the menu or the chef or whatever, but it's not a review. It's a business story that happens to be about a restaurant. And the same with other business stories. But
you just did one for Twin Peaks.
Yeah, and
down in Naples.
That's going to be opening this month, and followed closely behind by Bahama Breeze.
Yep.
But yeah, there's a lot happening down there. But no, I think that's part of people and I think that's the thing important too with the media. A lot of the media is not trusted nowadays, sadly. 'Cause I remember back in the day, like, you never thought about, announcer what.
You wouldn't even
political
question
party.
it.
Yeah, you didn't. Yeah, never crossed your mind.
Yep.
And things weren't politically charged then, at least like they are today. But no, I think that's part of it, is to be trusted, and you have to be authentic to be trusted. And I think that's what I strive to do as well. And I've had offers many times where people will call and say, "Can you do a story on us?" I said, "Well, what's new? I'm not just doing a story because you've been open a year. If I had time to, sure, I would do that, but I don't have time to do that. I'm always doing the next." Kind of like a barracuda, going after the next shiny thing.
Yeah, I love it.
So, and that's what I have to do. And that keeps me very busy. So I don't really have time to swing back and check in on someone. I mean, if it's a major anniversary, I'll think about doing something or whatever. But no, I don't take payment for anything that I'm doing. I'm not working with, I get requests all the time for people from different companies like Cisco or different real estate folks to work with them, that they want to know, just like exactly what you all are doing. You're monitoring it. They want to know first, because by the time I run it, it's sometimes too late for what they're doing.
I'm really impressed about that. I never thought about the timing of it.
Well,
that is so important.
That's got to be so, excuse me, that's going to be so difficult to hold that close to your chest.
Wow.
Even just with people in the, your friend circle or your family, that's got to be very difficult.
No, and I get excited about it, and I think that's part of it, is the passion behind it, because I'm very passionate about it. And sometimes people read that as pro-development, and I wouldn't say, I'm not anti-development, but I wouldn't say I'm necessarily pro-development, because I have the same traffic concerns everybody else does, right?
Yeah.
And things like that. And I'm concerned about the growth here, but at the same time, it excites me to see these new places, especially it could be a new mom and pop or a new chain to us, a new chain that elsewhere, and first time it comes here. Like, I remember reporting the first time when Trader Joe's, the first Trader Joe's in Florida,
that's right,
came here. There's a lot of firsts in Naples, which I don't know why that is. I think a lot of it's because people, they do come here seasonally, or they have another home here, and so we're like the first to come in. We were the first. Culver's, for instance, out in Florida, came here, and things like that. You know, different chains. That
We got
that
Alamo
find
Draft
us.
House as well, right?
Yeah, Alamo Draft House is the new one that just is going to open April 29th. This is the first Alamo Draft House in Florida.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, so no, and it's exciting. And I noticed that in my post that I did yesterday on that opening this month is that there were a lot of people from Estero, for instance, liking it, which surprised me. So I know that it's going to draw more where people probably wouldn't drive here to go to the movies for any other theater. They might drive here for that. So it will be more of a destination.
That's interesting. It's almost like unintended market research.
Yeah.
Do you monitor all that, your KPIs, or you go out and find the information and you take your pictures and editorial and you post it? Now you're off to the next one. But are you monitoring each of those posts that you do?
Just at a distance. I don't get into the nitty gritty of it. In the back of my mind, and it's not even conscious as much as I'm seeing what's successful like knowing that this is successful. Okay, that's something you want to either replicate or you're on the right track.
You could tell something was digestible or not.
Right. Well, that's the whole reason why I delved off into the restaurants anyway. I mean, this goes way back when we just were strictly online. Devices weren't as big then. So you were looking at just the analytics of posts online, and every time restaurant was in the headline, it was like one of the number one stories, if not the number one story that day.
No way.
And it's still pretty much the same. People like dining out here is like a participatory sport, and people really want to know. They want to be the first, and this is even, again, predates social media. They wanted to be the first to eat there, even when you really weren't bragging about it or posting about it. But now that you do post about it on Instagram or Facebook, whatever, they're even more apt now to want to be the first of their friend and their friends group. And again, I think that's part of the thing within the know, is that they want to be in the know in their group. And they're sharing. They don't necessarily say where they got that information. They're not necessarily promoting me, but they're saying they want to be the first. There's always somebody in your little group who's the one who knows what's going on.
How did you get to be like that? Like, is your family or where you came from, were they in the news, or were they kind of in this investigative journalist? You're almost like a Fletch.
No, my dad though is very curious. I mean, we were growing up, we would go on vacations and things, and we would stop at obscure places like Plains, Georgia, for instance. And they were my parents are conservative. So for them to stop in Jimmy Carter's town was fairly controversial, but I think he had a curiosity about them. And things like that we would do things like that.
That's cool.
Or we went out west and we would go to different places. Like I remember going to Silver Dollar City in Branson, which before Branson was even known, it wasn't even known then as what it is today. But places like that. No, and I think he just had a natural curiosity about him, and he was in sales. And I didn't even feel like I really had that initially either. I was more, I went into radio, and I was interested in that. And then radio news came from that, and then ended up going to newspapers, because even though newspapers didn't pay that well, it was still more than radio. And that's where I kind of gravitated to.
Was your father a successful sales individual?
Yeah, he worked because I was born in Peoria, Illinois, and that's where Caterpillar was based then. And my parents both worked at Caterpillar tractor, and my dad was in sales. My mom was in the punch cards at that time, the early computers. Because we're talking, this is back in the late 50s. When Caterpillar bought Towmiller lift trucks, they were based in Ohio, Mentor, Ohio, and that's where we moved. And we kind of moved around a little bit, but that's where I pretty much grew up and went to high school and college and everything up in Northeast Ohio.
I asked about your father and his success because it was almost a rhetorical question, because Jay and I over the last 5 years have done some studying on emotional intelligence around sales, and certain human dynamics are almost avoidable. And the one thing that we took away from this teachings was curiosity is a massive hack, especially in sales. People want to be heard. And also, a little known fact that a human being cannot be mad and curious at the same time. So if you're a sales individual that can be triggered by certain things that a new opportunity would say, that can't happen if you go into it curious. And it also elicits more information because interesting people are interested. And so if you come across curious, you end up getting a lot more information. So it's interesting that you brought that up. Shout out to your dad with the curiosity, because I think that's a huge sales hack.
No, and he's still going, and 85, and he still has his own business and still isn't retired.
We want to get him on the podcast. Is he down here?
No, he's up in Northeast Ohio.
All right, well, if he comes down, you got to ship him up here.
All right.
That'd be cool.
Yeah,
I bet he's got some stories.
Enjoy it.
Oh, yeah. Especially from a different time frame.
You brought up the punch cards and newspaper, a lot of these things of the past, and we're seeing e-commerce is a big thing now. COVID brought along kind of the curbside pickup, and the way business is being run is just, it's different. As you report on these businesses closing, like a lot of things we saw, Best Buy closing a ton of stores, Bed Bath & Beyond, I think a lot of that can be attributed to essentially the ease and the convenience of, Christmas shopping from your toilet, right? Mm-hmm. But we're still seeing brick and mortar stores in this area, especially coming in. And what have you seen from those businesses in terms of being able to insulate themselves from the digital age?
Well, I don't know if they really insulate themselves as much as they they kind of pivot some,
Adapt it.
pivot. Like I was interested in your story with my shower door, how the company pivoted and around you, really, which was surprising.
Yeah.
And that's a neat story. And I think you see that going on, and you see different things come in to backfill some of these Bed Bath Beyond stores or whatever. And we haven't even seen the beginning of it here. And I think Naples in general, for instance, is maybe 5 years behind nationally on some of the things that are happening. Like we don't have indoor pickleball yet, which is pretty much something that's happening all over. And I know it is gonna happen here because I hear people are looking for it. It just hasn't happened yet. So you're gonna see some of the new things like that happening. You're seeing tear downs. Like wouldn't surprise me, and I don't have any inside information. I'm not going to start any rumors, but it wouldn't surprise me that eventually Coastland Center Mall is torn down for apartment buildings. That could be a possibility where the out parcels remain circling the area, but the mall itself could
Almost kind of like Mercado, where they got the stores on the first floor, residences all above.
Could be that way, or it could just be strictly an apartment complex. But, or a condo complex. I mean, again, I don't have any insight. That's not happening as far as I know, but that wouldn't surprise me. Right. I think you're going to see, especially in the city of Naples, there's a lot of redevelopment because you don't have a lot of empty lots where you're for new development. It's all redevelopment. So something has to be torn down to build. So some of this stuff is even welcome. I think these big box stores, and they've done a pretty good job of filling them here, I think, as far as that goes. And they still have people who want to take a chance, or people who did e-commerce and found that it wasn't as lucrative as people did. I think it's like a pendulum swing. Pendulum swung way up during COVID, and now some of it's swinging back.
I agree.
Where
with
people wanted to touch and feel things. They
100%.
want to see things. Like with your product, with the glass, you can see it online, you can see it, but if you really have to want to see it in person, probably.
We're in that camp. As you can see, we invested a lot of money in our showroom. We're going to bring you next door after. But we found in this market in particular that you could still have a successful business digitally doing what we do. I don't think you can garner the same value that we do by having it on display and showing, the devil hides in the details. And you have to be in person to see those and understand them because there's more dimensions to it. So, yeah, I think there's a need for brick and mortar. But you have to be creative and be able to pivot as well. I think a lot of the businesses that went out were like Blockbuster. They weren't willing to pivot. They drew a line in the sand and stand for something or fall for anything, and that's what's happened.
Right, yeah, and people, they can get that completely digital, so that's even a different, something even beyond. You have to be able to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
So you want to have a foot in both. You obviously want to reach them online, people who just want to do things or used to, that's all they've ever done, is order things online and have it delivered. And there's others that they're old school and they don't want to do that for some reason, or they do want to see it. They want to try the clothes on, for instance, because I think they're even seeing that, like return policies. At first, you got the clothes, you just return them right away. But now they put more rules in returning now, and because they've seen that they may have been losing money on something like that. So things are fine tuned as they go along, which we'll always see. And I think that's part of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's an interesting segue because you brought up earlier how you, in the know, you want to kind of be the first, but the timing is important. And you talked about the pendulum swing. And now in this digital age where everything has gone digital and we've lost so many print newspapers, here we have the Naples Press you're putting out in print.
A new one.
Yeah.
New paper.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about that way. Like, what made you decide to go fully print?
No, and
with
it's
this?
and it's funny that would be cutting edge because
I know.
It comes around, but in today's day, it's cutting edge to even do that. But yeah, the Naples Press, we actually had the idea before the pandemic, and the pandemic delayed the launch. But we just saw a niche. We saw a need, especially in Collier County, and I think it's true for a lot of areas around the country. But this is a Gannett market. Gannett owns both the Naples Daily News and the Fort Myers News Press, so pretty much has a handle on the daily newspapers. So they, as you may know, own the USA Today network. So a lot of their content they'll be putting from USA Today, we're replacing local content, and they were cutting staff, so there were less people to do local content. And they also were politically slanted.
Yeah, I was going to say they're
the
biased.
The company's very left-leaning,
Yep.
and this is a conservative market that doesn't stand for that. So there was a lot of people canceling their subscriptions subscriptions for the Naples Daily News. So we thought, well, there's a market there. But they still wanted a paper, though. A lot of people still like the paper to have it in their hands, especially for like crossword puzzles.
I heard the last newspaper that'll ever be sold will be in Naples, Florida.
Well, that's what they used to say, and I used to believe that. I'm not sure anymore because when the Naples Daily News sold the press or dismantled the press,
Which was massive, by the way. I took a tour of that.
Yeah, it was unreal. That when they did that, not sure what they're going to do now. Nothing would shock me. So I used to believe that would be the last paper because of both our demographics, because it slants older, and because of the financially it's more well off.
Yep.
And the people want to do that, but I don't know anymore. But
Maybe it's the Naples Press now.
We are picking up people all the time. Yeah, people are gravitating towards it. We get a lot of compliments that people, and I know they're not just saying that to say it. They really do thank us for presenting, knowing that they could trust the news that's in there and that it truly is local. It's timely, as much as you can for a weekly. It's a little hard for a weekly to cover things on more of a timely basis. So we're trying to look ahead, like what does this mean to them?
Where can people subscribe or find the paper?
Well, you can go to naplespress.com to subscribe. That's probably the best way to do it. And you can read the stories online too at naplespress.com. But you also can pick up copies now at all the 7-Eleven stores in Collier County and Publix stores. But Publix, we still have a learning curve because they're throwing the paper away after Friday night. So if you don't get it Friday, we're working on it. And so we just, for this issue, this time was the first time we put the date, not just the day that it comes out on Friday, but the date that it's for that week. And so hopefully, they won't be throwing the paper away. But yeah, that's where you can pick it up. And it's $2 a copy at the store. But if you subscribe at home, I think it comes up to, I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's around $1.50 a copy to get it, mailed. And it comes right in your mailbox. So you'll get it usually on that Friday that it'll be in your mailbox.
I hope that this sparks a massive surge of subscriptions to Naples Press once we clip this. Do you have plans for growing the paper or adding any additional columns? Like, is there a new Tim in the Know type of column coming in the future? Maybe a food critic, actually?
We have people that help us out with doing, not necessarily food criticism. We do have one of the digital influencer, Naples Noms, for instance. They kind of do critique of local things and tie things together. But as for me growing, what I'm planning to do, I don't necessarily have future plans to do anything different. I have a hard time just keeping up with what was happening. There's so much more nowadays, because when I started doing the column 18 years ago, I was thinking, what am I going to write about every week? And now it's like, my gosh.
You have to pick and choose what you can put in there.
And again, it's timely. It's like a big puzzle. I'm working it in when it needs to go. And some of the things I bumped down the road for months, and other times this has to go right now, whatever, depending on what it is. But no, I just see steady growth in what I'm doing. When I left the Naples Daily News it was May of 2019, I had like 5,000 followers on Facebook. On the Facebook page. Now, today I have more than 40,000.
Wow, let's go.
Yeah, so it's really grown consistently. For a while, I was getting 1,000 more a month. Now it's more like 450 to 500 more a month.
Respect, dude. That's huge.
No, it's good, and I'm real selective of who it is. And this is not buying. These are not people outside this area for the most part, unless they were here and they moved away.
Right.
And I'm not even looking for those people. The people that I invite have to live. They live here. They have on their Facebook page that they live in Naples. And if I'm not sure, I don't even invite them. If they don't have a photo, I don't invite them. So I'm choosy about who I invite. And I've noticed that only about half the people I invite accept it. So you have to invite a lot of people to grow.
That's massive.
Yeah.
We know what that's like. Well, believe me.
But it happens organically, which is great.
Yeah.
Anyway, and if those people outside the area want to follow me for some reason because they want to live here, eventually, and they're looking to know the area, that's great. But I'm not going to invite them to come. But I welcome them. But yeah, because I want the engagement to be local people that are responding to whatever it is and that kind of thing. And that's part of it too. People like to come for the comments.
100%. We're even starting to see. We started live streaming this year, which is a a whole nother dynamic. You know, it'd be like doing this, but we're live streaming across all the platforms. And what we found was people do enjoy that engagement, and it's real time engagement.
Yeah.
So it's passionate. I mean, it's,
Right.
you know, we don't have any goods or services that we're offering in that live stream, but I imagine that's going to happen sooner than later.
Right, and you can see what people want to know about, you know, and some of what I do is incremental. So I'll announce it that it's coming, and then, which a lot of time the target date is way off. Now I almost hesitate to even use target dates anymore because of a variety of reasons, either staffing or construction or, you know,
Government.
there's permitting issues, whatever. There's all kinds of ways things are delayed. But anyway, I'll announce that that's coming, and then they want to know when specifically once it gets closer. And people see projects all different, you know, different levels. Sometimes because they're seasonal, they're not even here. That when they come here, they see that, oh, what is that going to be? And then they'll ask me again, and because they didn't see the post initially. So it's always I'm doing incremental reports to update people on things. And I can see what they're interested in, you know, and sometimes it's surprising. Like you had mentioned Twin Peaks, for instance, and that was, people were more interested in Twin Peaks than an average place, you know.
Why is that?
Well, it depends on the demographic, and I'll tell you why. I believe. I remember when Hooters was first going out on Pine Ridge Road. That was a big thing. Like to have a Hooters in Naples, I think they fought for years to even get that.
Controversial. Yeah.
Very controversial. I feel like some of the comments were probably in that same bucket. Like, why is this coming here?
Some of it was, but it's bizarre that this wasn't like a fought really, and the difference is you would think it'd be the opposite. Like you could see if Hooters was coming to Naples initially and it was fought, okay, now the Twin Peaks is going to Collier County, but it's happened the other way around.
Yeah.
So you would think the only thing that they had an issue with in Naples was the look of the exterior look. They made them tone down the rustic, the
log cabin-ish.
They had to tone that down on the outside and have less signage because they always have a big sign that says, what is it, 29-degree draft beer.
Oh yeah.
They didn't allow them to do that, for instance, and things. So that was the only thing that really the hurdle they had to jump was getting through the Naples Design Review Board on the look of the place. But otherwise, I didn't see any real.
What is the delta on new businesses opening versus businesses closing? Because we always see all the new stuff, and we're anxious for new stuff. But sadly enough, there are businesses closing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times those get the press, the ones that are opening and closing. And frankly, there are some here who've been here decades. There are businesses that have been operating for 40, 50 years, that have the longevity, and sometimes they're celebrated at different milestones. But I think there's more businesses that hang in here than people realize. I mean, for restaurants, I can speak that every year I do the opening and closing of restaurants, and I started that years ago with photo galleries of all the restaurants that open and close, because people like to look back. I kind of
nostalgic.
I kind of looked at it like the Oscar, when you watch the Oscars and you see the reel of all the people who died the year before. That's
it invokes an emotion.
Because you remember some of them, but you don't. You go, oh, I didn't know about that one. Or if you did, you remember. Oh, you like the reminder. And that's like with the restaurants that closed. I had an editor said people don't want to know about restaurants that close. They only want to know about the restaurants that open. But I proved otherwise. That I got more hits on the photo gallery for the ones that closed because people did want to, again, look back, reminder, and what's not there, and
That's interesting.
or people that could be like in your shoes where they're looking, okay, did something take that place, and if not, we want to monitor that because there might be another restaurant going on. And I do keep a list like that myself where I monitor, like Bonefish Grill was taken out of commission from Hurricane Ian at Naples Bay Resort. Well, my column that comes out tomorrow, it's in the paper, the edition you have.
By the way, nobody else has this, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. Go ahead.
And so that one, has the restaurant that's replacing Bonefish Grill, and it has news about Bonefish Grill, which at the time said they were going to find another location in Naples, and they are searching for another location. And I do report on a possible one where they might be going, which is out before. Again, goes back to what you said. They wouldn't have wanted that out. They said it was premature because they're looking at Founder Square, and it's premature to really announce it, but because it worked in what I was doing, I decided to put it in.
Of all the years you've been here in all these closings, what was the one place that you were the saddest to see go?
Oh gosh, that's a hard one probably. I don't know, a lot of times they're ones that my family likes, like they'll find, like my wife has celiac and my son, who's on the autism spectrum, is on a gluten-free diet as well. So we usually go out. It's harder for us to find places. So when you find something that's like gluten-free, this is something everybody, then when it closes, that's always tough, because especially if it's a local place, because local places normally don't do gluten-free as well, and it's mostly chains that you can count on, because I think they have more to lose,
Right.
and that do a better job of it. And so, but there'll be ones like it's real like spotting. There was like a Chicago pizza place called Henning's, for instance, that we went to that closed. There's been other ones that have come and gone, but I can't think. I'm trying to think one specific that.
What about the sunset parties at Naples Beach Hotel? Those used to be a gas. I love that.
Yeah,
That's
that
it.
was bizarre to see go. And I did walk through there just the week before that it closed, and kind of looked around, and just knowing that it's coming, it's kind of sad, and that time marches on. I mean, it's nothing. You don't feel like you're gonna lie down in front of a bulldozer to stop things,
no.
but at the same time, you do kind of love that. It's like passing.
I think you're onto something with the showing of the businesses, not celebrating that they closed, but just showing that they closed, because it is nostalgic and it brings back memories.
Right. Yep.
Oh man, I used to love going there. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and people do, and they look at it as oh, Naples is going to become the next Miami, and they give all these reasons, which I can't see that at all. I don't understand that feeling. Sure, Naples is going to change.
Yeah.
It's not going to be
Miami.
Yeah, or at least Collier County. I don't think Naples City itself is going to change as much as people think it will, because I think they've got zoning and restrictions in place that it's not probably going to happen. But on the outskirts, sure, which we're already seeing, on Davis and East Trail there. My gosh, I mean, the big cranes and the building.
Doesn't even look this. Yeah.
Oh, it's mind-boggling, and it's only the beginning. I mean, and it's jarring, and we're gonna see the same thing on the north part of town.
I've always been a fan of that. I like it. What concerns me, which Immokalee Road, when I first moved here in 2002, 2003, I noticed was the infrastructure sometimes can be delayed past the actual growth that's happening. So it's like, these new things are going to bring a lot more people, and are they staying ahead of the infrastructure to be able to?
No, I think they're obviously not. And I think the road infrastructure lags way behind. I mean, by the time you recognize you need a new road, and it just takes so long to go through all the design stage, the planning stages, and then finally, actually putting the contract out for bid, the hiring of the time they build everything, you're just so far behind. I mean, Vanderbilt Beach Road is a really bad case of how long it took. And it's still, we're still more than a year away till that's going to actually open the extension.
Speaking of Vanderbilt Beach, there is a little restaurant maybe you weren't aware of. Maybe we can put you in the know, but you probably already know that we're doing some work at that's going to be opening soon. Which one of my favorites, the Turtle Club.
Yeah.
Have you talked to? Do you know Mick Moore?
Oh yeah. No, I've been. That's one I've been incrementally covering, because that was one they kept saying it's going to open and it's the next month, and now they're saying this month.
This month. We're getting pressed. Matter of fact, that tile back there on there is getting glued to a piece of glass that we're going to put in the entryway there. But we commended Mick Moore, because when I walked through there, everybody's been saying, when are they opening? When are they opening? And he's losing out on a lot of money this season, not opening prematurely. However, very rarely does he get a time in his hustle and bustle to be able to make things perfect. And it was all new. And so he forfeited the short bag of getting the money to build it out the way he wanted to. It needed an update. It needed it fresh, not only for him and his customers, but for the culture. The staff there wanted everything new, and every single thing in there is brand new. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I know he had talked with me that they really wanted to overhaul the plumbing and the air conditioning and the kitchen, things like that, which gave them an opportunity.
It gave him an opportunity
to do it. Yeah. No, which is good. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, I think that's the same thing with Hurricane Ian across the board. It gave a lot of people opportunities to do things. I'm sure it was a setback for many, but at the same time, it was a leap ahead for others.
Massive for us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Same with the recession in 08, same with COVID. Usually during those tragedies or stuff like that, there's a bright spot. You just got to find it. But yeah, I'm anxious for that restaurant to go up. My mother, shout out Mom, she loves going to the Turtle Club.
No, it's a lot of people's favorites. I mean, this is an area where you would think there'd be more waterfront dining
There's
like that.
not.
But
You
there's
got La
not.
Playa, Turtle Club. Where
Like
else?
the Ritz, and then you've got places like down Isles of Capri and maybe out Marco, but in between there's
Not as much as you think there
yeah,
should
there's
be.
no, not at all. So it is surprising. But the Turtle Club, yeah, it has the longevity. It's been here for decades. It's like a favorite. I mean, I guess it depends on where you're at economically. You'd go there more often, but for most people, it's a special occasion place. So they'll go there for the anniversary or whatever, big birthdays, or somebody's in town, but they don't maybe frequent it that often, but they always want it there. It's one of those places that you may not go there as often as you'd like, but you still want it there when you want to go.
100%.
And
it's kind of quiet. It's off the little beaten path around
Yep.
the back, so it's. I don't know. I like it that way. I don't think it would operate the same if it was a bigger restaurant. That's what
or
makes
if it was a restaurant on the first floor of a really large resort.
Yeah.
It's a small place.
Yes.
Resort. It's just right, and it's right there. You're, like they say, toes in the sand. I mean, they have like a platform where there's sand, but it's still sand. And no, it's just a neat place.
It's
and
a
so
really cool place.
I'm hoping that they'll be able to stave off the march of progress and keep that going for years to come. So
That's cool. Well, we're getting close to the end of this podcast, but so first thing I wanted to say is anybody that's looking to advertise in the Naples Press can reach out through, I imagine, through the website, or
Yes.
you have sales reps that will call on them once they acknowledge.
Yes.
And two, are you looking for any staff for the Naples Press?
yeah, we're always looking for good writers, photographers, people who want to submit things. Because we pride ourselves on being it's written by Neapolitans for Neapolitans. So we really do want people that live here, that work here, that have something, an investment in this community,
Yeah.
because that's what we're doing, and we want people with knowledge who have been here for a while, hopefully. I mean, it's great to have young people too who see things from a different vantage point than others. So, but yeah, if people are interested in writing for us, it's to reach out to us. You can find the names on the second page of the paper every week, or go to naplespress.com and find out. But yeah,
That's
we always
cool.
welcome people to write.
Just real quick on that subject, you did mention that you try to remain apolitical with this newspaper. In these times where everyone's opinionated on something, especially even the younger culture more so, how difficult is it? Because it's hard enough to find employees as it is. How difficult it is to navigate.
Well, it is, and we don't expect people to personally be apolitical.
Sure.
I mean, because that's impossible.
Right.
You're gonna have your own biases, but just if you can leave them on the
sideline,
side to write, if people can look at it, because we have people covering things, and I know where they are politically, but it doesn't show up in the writing.
Your post
That's
never
good.
did,
Yeah.
and I told Jay that. I said, the one thing that I noticed about him is there's never any bias to it. It's always about the business. It's perfect, and you should be commended for that.
Yeah, that's
Well,
a dying
thanks.
breed.
Yeah, you should definitely be commended for that. We hope that you get a tremendous amount of success for this and a lot more subscribers. So anybody that's looking for a weekly paper completely surrounded around Collier County, Collier County, that they should go to the naplespress.com
Yeah.
and subscribe today. I've actually never been to one of these buggy
Small
events.
buggy races.
Is it cool? Is it worth going
they're
to?
loud. Yeah, it is. It's loud, and it's probably I think the days are numbered for where the Florida Sports Park is today. I think it'll be relocated eventually further east. So.
Yeah.
But,
That's some prime real estate right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
But no, it's a neat thing to have that. This was like the where it started, I guess 75 years ago. So it's kind of cool.
It's got
that
some
it's
tradition.
like a throwback. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's cool.
Well, we appreciate you electing to come onto the podcast. We appreciate everything you do. And we do thank you for your Tim in the Nose column, because we have generated some business because of that. So keep it up.
Oh, good. You keep it up as well.
Yes,
Thanks.
we will. We appreciate you.
All right. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
My pleasure.